Chapter 13. The cool night breeze drifted off the pier into the city. Boats rocked gently as waves pushed against their hulls. The air smelled fresh after the rain. To William Discescard, it felt like heaven. The old noble of Stirling stood alone on the docks. He took the night completely in. He remembered as he took his wife on long walks at night along the pier. His wife is gone now, taken by a lung virus 2 years ago. But what could one expect at 67 years old? Time eventually took everyone. All he had left now was his daughter, who was happily married, and his grandson. William slowly walked away from the edge of the dock and sat down on a wooden bench overlooking the pier. A black hood covered his head, though his long gray beard still spilled out from beneath. He bit his thumbnail as his thoughts drifted. He thought again of his grandson, the only male descendant left in his family line. Unfortunately, William rarely had time for the boy. His work consumed him, which was exactly why this expedition mattered so much. 20 years of secret preparation, and now it was finally happening. It had to happen for the good of the world. If they were ever to understand how Salagas truly began, or perhaps where this world itself had begun, the answers would not be found here. They had to be out there somewhere. William stared out across the dark sea. But after he had completed everything, he decided he would step down from the noble office and retire. His daughter, Eva, would take his place. 68 was far too old to lead a city. Let the young bucks take over. A faint sound of scraping boots came from somewhere in the distance. William glanced to the side. He gripped the bench. The wind had gone still, and the waves rolled quietly. There was nothing, only a sleeping city. He calmed his nerves and turned to look the other way. He nearly jumped when he saw a dark-cloaked figure sitting beside him. William clutched his chest as warm blood rushed through him and his heart pounded for a moment.
Sorry for the startle, sir. It's only me. I have everything in motion as you asked.
William relaxed at the sweet sound of Ebony's voice. He lowered his hand from his chest and took a steady breath. Ebony, sweet Ebony, one of the few people he truly trusted. He trusted her enough that 2 years earlier he had made her the captain of his private army. He turned toward her and looked beneath the shadow of her hood. In the darkness, he could only make out her eyes against her dark skin. She was strong, beautiful, composed, and not easily swayed by men. She had her head on straight, and that was exactly what he needed in a captain.
You have my men stationed as requested?
William asked, turning his head slightly away as he spoke.
Yes. 3,000 soldiers are stationed at Nightwolf. 500 soldiers are scattered through the woods near the fishing towns. 2,000 in Brownton, and 6,000 remain at our disposal here in Stirling.
Ebony whispered.
Good,
William said, looking her way.
We can't afford to make a mistake, whether this starts another war.
William gazed back at the pier.
Also, sir, the other nobles are waiting.
Good to hear. Where are they now?
On a vessel offshore. I have a boat ready.
And the guards? I want this meeting kept in absolute secrecy,
he said with a hiss.
The Jarl is already aboard the vessel. We replace the dock guards with your men disguised as Stirling soldiers. Nothing will leak of our true intentions.
Very good,
William said as he rose from the bench.
Let's go.
Ebony stood behind him and led him toward a small boat waiting at the docks. 5 miles south of Stirling, William and Ebony sailed in a small boat to a galleon known as Waves over Triumph. He gazed at the old ship's hull. From a distance, it was visible through the fog, which worked to his benefit. The water shook the small boat as they came up against the ship. Ebony grabbed a rope and secured their boat to the side of it. William stood, grabbing hold of the ship, and climbed up to the lower deck. As he made it to the top, a hand grabbed his shoulder. A man with a long blonde beard helped him aboard. William brought his feet to the deck, Ebony following behind. She walked up next to him and removed her dark hood, revealing short dreadlocks tied together in a tight bun. Soon, they were escorted to the captain's quarters. William stepped through the double doors into a room where a large oval table stood in the center. 6 chairs surrounded it, though 2 seats remained empty. Nobles occupied the other 4, 3 men and 1 woman. William studied them as he took his seat, with Ebony settling into the chair to his left. After William was seated, the 2 guards who had escorted them inside stepped out and quietly shut the doors behind them. A chandelier hanging above the table lit the room with a soft, golden glow. William knew every noble present. He looked each of them in the eye, ready for business. Slowly, he removed his hood, exposing his gray hair and aged eyes. William clasped his hands together and rested them on the table. Across from him sat John Bates, the middle-aged noble of the city of Deckerson. Next was Dmitri Talalyev, the noble and war hero of Nightwolf. At the end of the table sat Esther Ingolf, the old noble of West City. And finally, there was Clabe Wintz, the newly appointed young noble of Dorikstein, who had taken office after his father's death. He sat to William's right. A vital piece of the puzzle he was. For a moment, none of them spoke. Silence filled the room. The room swayed slightly from the movement of the sea.
All right, I suppose I'll begin.
William said, gesturing to Ebony.
My captain reports that all of my men are now stationed as planned.
The nobles looked her way as she sat quietly.
What about you, Esther?
Esther stood and brushed her dress smooth, adjusting the maroon hoop sleeves that hung from her arms. The older woman always showed respect. Old school, some would say, always dressed in fashion. William had never once seen her without her gold bracelets, necklaces, and large diamond earrings. And, of course, her hoop sleeves. Always hoop sleeves.
Yes, my troops have been deployed as requested.
Esther stated calmly across the table.
2,000 are stationed quietly in Norrington, with another 2,000 on their way to Shallow City. I still have 4,000 at my disposal in West City.
She said, and sat back down.
And you, Dmitri?
William asked, hands still clasped. The sharp, thin, blond man remained seated. He wore a bright green tunic and matching slacks, sitting with one leg folded over the other, with his hand grasping his knee. Many gold rings wore around the man's fingers.
I have 500 troops scattered throughout the northern woods, along with 20 rotating spies in Dorikstein.
He said, glaring at Clabe Wintz.
In addition, I have 10 naval ships deployed at the Great River.
And John, I trust we still have your support.
William asked. The man simply nodded while stroking his large brown beard.
Good.
William looked around the table.
As you all know, we are here to make history and hopefully not start another war. But precautions have been made, and with the cooperation of our newest member.
William nodded toward Clabe Wintz. The young noble sat stiffly in his chair, clearly shaken.
Everything should proceed as planned.
I don't trust him.
William turned to Esther's outburst. The woman shot up from her seat.
He should never have been informed.
William gestured for her to sit down. She did. William heard Ebony's breath stiffen. He looked back at Clabe, anger in his brow, then back to Esther.
As I said, every precaution has been made. I promised Clabe that if he does not cooperate and keep Dorikstein out of this, his family's blood will be on his hands.
William turned his stern gaze toward Clabe.
Isn't that right, sir?
The noble's brow loosened and worry filled his eyes.
And how exactly did you manage to make such a threat?
Esther asked.
Clabe Wintz has been staying with Dmitri for the past year, as he agreed. During that time, however, I arranged a bit of negative insurance. I made it very clear to him that if he leaks anything about our intentions, his family will die where they stand.
William leaned back slightly.
He will not take that risk. He knows I would carry out their assassinations if necessary.
Esther slowly settled back into her seat, her tension easing slightly.
Now that we've resolved that matter,
William went on.
I want to confirm that we're all in agreement. The purpose of this is to expand ourselves beyond Salagas, a deliberate break away from this country.
Clabe suddenly stood from his chair, his hands trembling.
I agreed to keep quiet because my family's lives matter more to me than preserving this nation.
He said.
But I must warn you, the books of the Forerunners give a clear reason why we should never sail beyond the seas. They speak of an unknown world filled with death and monsters. That is where our ancestors came from. Who else would know better? It is all written in the 6th book.
John Bates leaned forward in his chair. He lifted a cup from the table, took a slow drink, and then looked directly at William.
What he says is true, William. We should not ignore the word of the Forerunners. The last war was about breaking away from Doric Stein's government. But this...
He paused.
This is abandoning the land entirely.
John set his cup down.
Can we truly ignore their warning?
All of Sterling wishes to leave,
William snapped. He rose from his seat, his hands clenched into fists.
Doric Stein has enforced its rule long enough, keeping us under the authority of delusions and false fears.
He paused and looked around the table.
And might I add, there is a forbidden text.
The nobles stared at him, stunned and confused.
The 8th book of the Forerunners,
William said in a hard, raspy voice.
Titled Visions and Warnings, written by Nahum Bage.
I have never heard of such a text.
Clabe said. William turned sharply toward him.
That's because the other Forerunners tried to erase it completely. I have no idea if any copies still exist, besides mine.
You have one?
Esther asked, her voice rising. William said nothing. Instead, he slowly reached to Ebony. She looked up at him and slowly withdrew an object wrapped in cloth from under her cloak. William took it and sat it on the table. Carefully pulling the covering away, revealing a black, leather-bound book. They all stared as it lay before them.
This book is the most important of them all,
William said, keeping both hands resting on the cover.
It gives insight like none other. The text states that a time will arrive when Salagas makes contact with the other world. It warns of the dangers, but it also promises knowledge.
He leaned slightly forward.
Knowledge about the very beginning of our world.
After a moment, William wrapped the book again and returned it to Ebony.
The real answers to our existence lie beyond the seas, my friends.
He looked around the table, but the others only stared back at him, their faces pale, almost fearful.
If the Forerunners condemned that book as you say, then so should we. It's dangerous,
Clabe said, crossing his arms.
So is the truth,
William shot back.
You know nothing about it, myself, and nobles long before most of you kept a creed to protect that book. This expedition is the outcome of that creed.
Dmitri leaned forward in his chair, clearly intrigued.
A creed, you say? Anyone we may know who was part of it?
He asked. William looked Dmitri's way, intrigued by the man's enthusiasm.
Most are not worth mentioning,
William said, leaning forward with his arms resting on the table.
But there is one name you all know, a great noble who protected this creed with his life.
William paused, then continued.
He deceived Doric Stein during the 5-year war, hiding our true intentions. You see, we never truly cared about breaking away from Doric Stein's government. Our goal was always to return to our origins beyond the seas.
He looked slowly around the table.
That noble became a traitor to Sterling in the eyes of Doricstein, so the city would believe the war was only about changing the government. That way, Doricstein would never discover our actual intention.
And who was this noble?
Clabe asked quietly. William fixed his eyes on him. He took a slow breath, and slowly he revealed the name.
Kren Benson.